Honestly, the biggest things we see is either chronic health, athletic recovery, or preventative healthcare. And so I see what I specifically like to work with the most is people that are working with chronic symptoms, just because there's so many underlying causes that go into chronic disease as well as symptoms. It's a great way to help to address those as well as to alleviate some of the negative symptoms they're dealing with.
Welcome to the Restore Hyper Wellness Podcast. This is the Brownsboro edition, as well as some other studios in the NADDAD owner group. But today I have a special guest, Allie.
Hello.
Sweet. So Allie, let people know, what is your role within Restore?
So at Restore, I act kind of as a health coach as well as in studio. So what that looks like is anyone that walks in the doors, they're able to come and ask questions more specifically about the health issues they're dealing with, symptoms they might want help with, and have a little more catered direction to it, as well as if people want to take some one-on-one work to get a little deeper into testing and stuff like that as well.
What are a lot of the problems that people who go to Restore Hyper Wellness are that they face that you help with?
Honestly, the biggest things we see is either chronic health, athletic recovery, or preventative medicine, or maybe medicine's not the right word, but preventative healthcare. And so I see what I specifically like to work with the most is people that are working with chronic symptoms, just because there's so many underlying causes that go into chronic disease as well as symptoms. It's a great way to help to address those as well as to alleviate some of the negative symptoms they're dealing with.
And then a lot of the modalities we have at Restore are made to help people with those chronic illnesses. What are the exact illnesses that we see most often with our clients?
I think it really depends. I mean, a lot of chronic pain, arthritis is definitely huge. I've been recently talking to people dealing with some mold issues. Overall, the biggest thing is when people do have issues they're starting to deal with, symptoms they're starting to deal with, but they don't have necessarily a diagnosis or answer for it. Or perhaps they've worked with doctors and can't really understand fully while they're starting to decrease their energy, get more brain fog, have more inflammation and symptoms like that. Because that's where sometimes there's not necessarily a pure medical cause sticking out, but it has more to do with the underlying toxic overload, the way their cells have just slowed down with age, or anything that has triggered their immune system to just respond slower.
And then, so let's say someone wants to come to Restore. They want to have they're tired of not being healthy. What's that whole process coming to Restore and working with us look like?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen different ways for different people depending on what you want. So a lot of times people on their own are interested in one thing, red light therapy specifically. I see a lot of people walking in the door wanting to do red light therapy. They've heard about some of the benefits. But then once they're in there and talk to us a little bit more, they begin to understand how some of the other therapies may help. I specifically see a lot of people come in for red light therapy and cryotherapy. And then as they talk to us more and understand more how things like the IVs and NAD can help, then they're kind of getting into the deeper healing that comes with those.
And then so everyone talks about NAD. What exactly is NAD in like layman's terms?
Okay. NAD is like a magical coenzyme in all of our cells that runs a lot of our cellular processes. So as we age, it begins to decline. And with that, we see decline in basically aging from an internal and external level is how I like to look at it. So the more NAD we have, the better our cellular repair, our detoxing abilities are going to be, pushing out or increasing our cellular metabolism and other things that are just important to overall health. So cellular health is just kind of at the base of any sort of chronic condition we're dealing with. Because if you can rev up your cellular health, that's going to help issues on all parts of the spectrum. If you're dealing with inflammation, the better your cellular health is, the better the cells can respond to that inflammation. If you're dealing with a toxic overload, the better your cellular health is, the better it can detox them. So really NAD, because it plays a role in so many different cellular functions related to basically everything to keep the cell healthy, that's going to be why it's so important to focus on not just your cellular health, but your NAD levels. And of course you can take NAD, you can take NR. There's a lot to like holistically you can do to help support that as well, that a lot of people like to. Taking it is definitely the easiest way. And as well as if your cells are just more if they've been declining more in their health just from age or chronic health conditions, if you have dealt with any chronic diseases, Lyme, mold, anything like that, it's also going to increase or decrease those levels and increase the rate of internal aging.
Now, NAD, we know, is something that tends to be a little more pricey for customers. Now, what's a way a customer can work with us and get the most price-effective model for utilizing NAD in their body?
The most effective way is definitely the memberships. Those are going to be ones that keep you on a consistent NAD schedule. Just because it is one where the more you take it, the better it's going to be for you, the more those levels are increased. But also if you do a loading dose or an increased amount at first to really heighten those levels, if they drop back down, if you wait a long time between your NAD, then you're going to have to just like keep increasing those back up. So the best way to do it is definitely the memberships. And those way you get either like 4 shots a month, 1 drip a month. You can exchange it for NR and go back and forth between NR and NAD as well. But it's definitely going to be the most cost-effective way. And I do like to say any amount of NAD is going to be good for you. So even if you're not able to commit to the full plan, getting it as often as you can on like a monthly basis, any amount you get is going to be good. And we definitely have options for that as well.
Yeah. Now with, cause you guys are located in you have the Cincinnati, like the Crestview, and you're in the Hyde Park locations, right?
Yep, in Hyde Park.
Those two. Out of those 2 studios, which studio is your favorite?
See, I have to have a bias for Hyde Park just because that is where I'm based. I did work in the Crestview a bit for training, but I definitely love the Hyde Park one. It is cool because we see different clientele in both. That was something that I noticed that was interesting. Cincinnati, just where we are, of course, there's lots of sports teams around, professional and lots of colleges as well. So we definitely had a heavy athletic recovery focus. But anywhere you go, I feel like there's everyone, especially in today's world, dealing with just the negative symptoms, the decreased energy and chronic health things as well. So, and of course, people wanting to take a more active role in preventative medicine as well.
So what's like, let's say I'm coming to you guys and I'm a 50-year-old male who is dealing with chronic arthritis, chronic pain, and I'm just tired all the time. What is the exact care plan that you would suggest to me to help fix those issues?
If you are coming with all of that, I first and foremost would recommend testing always just to see if there are underlying nutritional imbalances dealing with that. Because a lot of times if people are deficient in things like B12, B vitamins, other things, and nutrients that are important, that can be an easy way to fix that energy. But I would start off with working on your cellular health. Red light therapy is one of my favorites. NAD, I think anyone can be on, especially if you're 50 years old, your levels are probably going to be about 50% is what they used to be. So honestly, if there was a few things you could do, I would do the red light therapy. I would do maybe some B12 shots, especially if you are dealing with chronic fatigue. And I would get on the loading dose and plan for NAD. On a higher level, if you are starting to have more issues like arthritis and stuff like that, there have been some studies that show that leaky gut is associated in 90% of autoimmune cases. So I specifically always like to say there's a lot that Restore can do to help and things you can address more on a daily or weekly basis that are going to amplify your cellular health, get rid of those inflammatory markers, help to increase your NAD and things like that. But there is a lot more that goes into it, and it starts with your diet, of course, your nutrition, which we can help with supplementation through our IV therapy and shots. But I really do think that focusing on your whole holistic style of living with your gut health, working with your digestion, all of that's going to be really important as well.
Now, everyone always says, well, I could just take this in a supplement. They think they could just get the nutrients from like a pill from GNC.
Right.
What really is the difference between taking a pill and then getting an IV infusion?
So anything we ingest has to be absorbed and go through the whole process of digestion, breaking down in our gut, being processed by the liver. And so by the time we actually can extract the nutrients from anything we eat or any supplement we take, we're not going to get 100% of the full absorption of that. And along with that too, you do just have to be very careful of what supplements you are taking, because not all supplements are created the same. And a lot of nutrients in supplements aren't in their most ideal form for absorption. So for example, if you're taking a supplement with methylated forms of certain vitamins, it's going to be absorbed a lot better, especially with people that have different methylation issues or gene mutations, than other supplements that might be a lot cheaper and easy to go to Kroger or any grocery store and say, I'm just going to buy this $10 supplement. But the supplement, the nutrients that it's giving you, might not be in their optimal form. They might also be filled with a lot of products that are toxic to our system and preservatives and stuff that just aren't great for us to digest. And it's just not going to be the most bioavailable form. So with that, IVs, it's going straight into the bloodstream. So it's bypassing the whole process of nutrients having to be broken down and extracted, meaning we can get 100% absorption. And that just goes straight into the bloodstream. And with that as well, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But with that as well, taking them in those forms is just going to give you the full absorption. Oh, this is what I was going to say. A lot of people have bad digestive issues. It's one of the biggest things we see in today's world. We have this blanket term of IBS, or people that are just having struggles with indigestion. And when we struggle with indigestion, we're also struggling to digest supplements we're taking. So I know a lot of people who can't absorb the nutrients that are in the supplements because absorption factors more into how we're getting the nutrients out of what we eat and the supplements we take than the actual supplement we're taking in. So if you have a lot of issues with absorption, but you're taking all these supplements, they may just go straight through your system and you're not even getting the benefits that you want in the first place.
And then with, what would you say are the top 5 supplements that most Americans take that are actually scams and they should probably not be taking those orally?
Oh gosh. Certain ones I do know are, and I'm not completely versed on like the top 5 of them, but I do know some, like CoQ10 is one where it's better to take in a shot form or sublingually. That's another way to get nutrients to bypass the bloodstream. Than in ingestion form. B12 is another one that you can get the sublingual supplements, but by the money you're spending on getting a quality B12 supplement that's sublingual, you might as well just get a B12 shot. It's a lot quicker, and you're getting a lot higher doses of that as well. Folic acid, that is one that is huge because 1 in 4 people deal with the MTHFR gene mutation, which just means you have a lot of issues with methylation. And you almost have negative reactions to folic acid, which is a synthetic form of folate. So not only is that a form of folate that you can't ingest, but it's going to be one that is your body basically has a negative reaction to. So that's an issue we see a lot too, is most supplements do include folic acid and not folate in its methylated form. And with so many people having that gene mutation, it's just one that honestly don't do well with our systems and may make us more inflamed and prone to chronic health conditions.
So you mentioned methylation there. Methylation is something that Gary Brecka talks about quite frequently.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't really understand what that means. Can you give us a super high level, kind of dumbed down version of like what methylation means for people? Methylation is
kind of like a light switch of turning processes or like things on and off in the body. So there's a lot of different things methylation in general is involved in processes in our body. But specifically when it comes to, like, for example, folic acid being a form of folate. Folate is a nutrient all of our bodies need, especially you'll hear doctors talk a lot about it, especially with pregnant women, because you really need a lot of folate in your system to have a healthy pregnancy. But folic acid, a lot of people with the genetic mutation aren't able to turn that into folate. So the ability to basically turn folic acid into the nutrient we need isn't happening. And of course, then we have this nutrient that we keep taking in that our body just doesn't know what to do with at that point. So it's kind of like an on and off switch. It turns something we're taking into something we need. And this happens naturally, whether it's turning like nutrients from food into different things our body can use. It's just basically the process of being able to make things usable in different ways for the body or turn on different processes.
What would you say are probably, let's say, the top 3 services at Restore that will drive the most difference in somebody? Like if they could come in and they can only come in one time, the 3 things that they can do that'll set them up for success for at least like a month.
That one's a hard question to answer because when it comes to our health, it's less about the things that we do occasionally and the things that we do once a month or once a year. To think about our health is basically a summation of our daily habits. So the things that we are doing on a daily basis go way more into effect, even if they are mild, than anything we can do once. So with that, I would say there's very few things that you could just come once for and it would make a dramatic impact on your health. If you were to come once a month, I would definitely say the NAD. That's going to make a huge difference, because that's something that's going to go to all of your cells and boost those levels for a longer term or like a month period. The sauna, I would say detoxing with the amount of toxins we live in and have ingested in our systems and our food and our air, literally in everything involved in daily life at this point. The more we can detox our systems and get rid of the underlying toxic levels we have, the better off our health is. So with the infrared sauna, that's going to be actually pulling out heavy metals, pulling out microplastics, and pulling out a lot more toxins through our sweat. Unlike regular saunas, which just go at more of a base level of sweating out, you're not getting that deeper toxic cleanse. So I definitely would recommend it a lot more often, especially if you're dealing with more intensive chronic issues or symptoms. But if you can get to the sauna, get an IV drip with things like glutathione, NAC, and other things that are going to help your detoxing abilities, as well as NAD, those are the ones that you could come in more occasionally for and would definitely boost your health.
Now, I know a lot of people come to Restore and they don't exactly know what we stand for and what we mean. If you had to just say in 2 sentences, this is what Restore means to people, what would you say that is?
Restore is your future health. I would say, honestly, it's your future. It's when people say that health is wealth for a reason, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, that's going to be something you're dealing with on a daily basis that is taking over your life. And we've seen the chronic disease epidemic take over everything. Restore is boosting your health to keep yourself happy and healthy and energized, so you don't have to deal with all those things later on in life. It's just making sure that you can be the best version of yourself, show up with the most energy, the most mental clarity, just feeling your best so that you can do what you want to do the best in the world, whether that is having a podcast or going out into business meetings or being a mom, whatever it is. We all operate our best selves, our most mentally clear selves. We can show up the best when we do feel healthy from a core level. And so I would say in a nutshell, Restore is just boosting your own health and longevity and wellness so that you can show up the best way that you can for all the things you do in life.
And what would you say is something most people who, live in Cincinnati are getting wrong about their health?
It's hard to say Cincinnati specifically. It may be too much skyline. But I would say in general, what people get wrong is they don't focus on preventative health. What I see a lot, and from my own chronic disease journey, obviously I got kind of shoved into understanding how things can either help or hurt our health on a daily level and go into creating dis-ease in our body or imbalance in our body. So I think the biggest thing that people do that hurts their health is to not focus on the things you can do on a daily basis that are going to keep yourself healthy and focus on your longevity. I would say not doing things that are supportive of like your natural detoxing processes, not doing things that are supportive of like boosting your cellular health on a daily basis that are so easy, whether it's at home on your own, whether it's through your diet, your lifestyle, or coming to Restore, of course, to help on a deeper level with all of that. Genuinely, I think it's passiveness that goes into it, because if we just go into what we're fed, the diets we're fed by, I don't even just want to say America, but the world, the lifestyles we're told to live, the chronic stress most people are under, if we're not doing anything to negate that, then you're just setting yourself up for greater imbalance and dis-ease in the body later on.
What was your personal journey to finding Restore and working with us?
Yeah, so my personal journey, I actually, like I said earlier, dealt with my own chronic health conditions in my young 20s. And when I was working with doctors, I wasn't finding answers or the answers I wanted to hear. And so I just couldn't accept for myself that some chronic conditions were a lifelong thing with no answers, but a few pills that would cause more issues later on. And so with that kind of got me into learning a ton about functional medicine, underlying causes of disease, and holistic health. And so it was kind of a self-study as I went through my own healing journey. And then I ended up studying Ayurvedic medicine for a year and a half. So that's more of the Eastern style medicine from India. And I just loved learning about not only like the functional side of things, which of course we learned about as well, but just like the mind, body, spirit connection that goes into how our bodies operate, which is super interesting. But yeah, so after I finished up my certification, I ended up looking around for jobs that I could begin to share my knowledge. I had started working with a lot of people one-on-one that just had similar stories and wanted some help and direction. And so that's just when I realized I loved working with people on helping to find answers, because it can be so hard in today's world. And of course, there's always new medicine coming out, always new things in the functional health world and the biohackers world, as well as things from thousands of years ago that are helpful as well. So yeah, that's what got me to start my search of learning how to work with people on a greater scale. And that's when I came across Restore. And that they were hiring a health coach to help people with the exact thing that I was interested in doing. So that's where my journey started.
And with that, like now that you're part of the Restore family in the community, how would you describe, what the work environment is like with Restore?
Honestly, it's amazing. I genuinely haven't worked somewhere where people are this kind, supportive of one another, and genuinely create such a beautiful work environment. And I think it goes to show when people walk in the door and they can sense that people really care for them. People work as a team, whether you're working with the esthetician and have questions when you come out, she'll help point you towards me or our nurse, or whether you're just wanting a fun experience to enjoy talking and just feeling super welcomed and at home when you're in the door. So people are really great at working together, asking questions and collaborating with people in different departments or in different positions to get the most well-rounded effect for the people that come in. Yeah.
Now, with that being said, what do you think is the easiest way to get in contact with people at Restore so someone could come in and use our services?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is to walk in the door. We take walk-ins all day long. We're always there for it. It can get busy at times, especially on the weekends. So I would definitely recommend you can set up an appointment. You can call the store's number, just call and set up a time for a consultation to walk in. You can call and set up a time for an IV or a specific service you're interested in. Of course, you can email us as well, text us. But honestly, I think the easiest way is to just walk in.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for being on the podcast today. It's been great getting to know you. Your personal health coach or personal journey, do you post on social media? How can people follow you? What's that journey like?
Yeah, so I do have a podcast. If you look up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at the Zen and Tonic podcast, Wellness Unfiltered, if you're interested for learning more about holistic living, gut health, lymphatic drainage, all the good stuff. So I do a lot of episodes on there for things that you can implement in more of your daily life, which are a good combination with Restore services as well.
Sweet. Well, thanks for being on.
All right. Thank you.